Hi, welcome to my blog. My name's Tom Shue. Today we're going to do another Lightroom tutorial, and in this tutorial I want to talk to you about sharpening. First of all, let's get this right out of the way. I'm going to say it. Sharpening is an illusion. Sharpening does not create detail in your image. If detail's not there when you capture it, I'm sorry to tell you, detail will never be there. You can't create detail when it's not captured in the image. All sharpening is edge contrast between light areas and dark areas. It's controlled by the amount you apply. That will control how bright or how dark that edge detail is, and the radius controls how far that detail, those dark or light areas, encroached from the edge in onto the actual image. And I'll show you how to do it in Lightroom, because Lightroom does some features that aren't available anywhere else except in Lightroom and Camera Raw. Matter of fact, the same controls that are in Camera Raw are the controls in Lightroom. So if you're using either one of those, this will apply. Before we get working inside Lightroom and show you how to use Lightroom to do your sharpening, I'm going to bring up Photoshop and I'm going to show you exactly what's happening here with sharpening. So what I did is I made this little image here. It's a gray background, dark gray, and a white image with just some pattern that I created. So what we'll do is we'll go into the sharpening tool. We'll go Filter, Sharpen, and just for this purpose to show you, we'll go to Smart Sharpen. Okay, let's bring this all down here to 0. Okay, let's go down here to where these little edges are. What I want you to see is when we apply an amount with a radius, let's bring this radius up just a little bit so you can see what's happening. 0.3 pixel of edge radius. So look between this area here where it's gray and black, and look between where it's gray and dark gray and light gray, and look where it's white and gray. You'll see that the light areas get lighter and the dark areas get darker. So let's bring this amount up. Let's zoom in a little bit more so we can see. Let me increase the radius just a hair so you can see what's happening. There's none. You'll see that it's just gray against white. So as we increase this amount, you start to see this black line come in, and you can start to see this little white halo happening in between the white and the black. This is that edge detail I'm telling you about. So if we bring the radius up, you can see that the whites increase, the blacks increase. It's starting to get more white on top of the already white, and it's starting to get black underneath here between the gray and the white. So we'll bring the radius all the way up, and you can see the whites all the way over here. Now it's starting to get lighter into the gray. Black is here, white's here. So let's bring this back out to 100 so you can get a good idea, or 50 will show you. So if we bring this all the way up and the radius all the way up, you can see that we'll apply it. You can see that this is what sharpening is. It's more dark edges. It's darkening of the edges, and the radius controls how much it encroaches into the edge detail, and that's it. So let's go back into Lightroom and I'll show you how to use this. So we're going to go into the Develop module. We're going to click the D key. First, let's bring this up. Go to the D key, and this is a gardenia, and what I'll do is we'll go down here to this edge detail slider, which is the radius, and I'll bump this up just so I can bring the radius down. First of all, if you want your little navigation window here to let me close this histogram down, give it some more working space. So if you want some information inside here, this is a one-to-one representation of something on your image. So you can click this little guy and hover. Let's zoom up this guy. Whoa. Okay. So if we click on this little guy, we can hover where we want this window to represent 100%. That's what this little guy does here. So I want to tell you about sharpening and how it works. It doesn't apply to color. It only applies to the luminance value. You'll notice down here there's a masking, and there's a luminosity mask that gets created to apply sharpening selectively to your image. And this is a feature that's only available in Lightroom and Photoshop Raw, Camera Raw. So if you hold down the Alt key I mean, we can just go up and slide sliders over, and you notice that, you know, it's applying it all over, and the radius can, you know, is going to give you more control and detail. It's going to give you even more information, but it's only affecting those edges like before, but you really don't know where you're at. So this is how you would use sharpening and apply it properly. If you hold down the Alt key, what it will do, first of all, you want to find an area in the image that you want to make sure that you're sharpening and that you have control. I'm looking here that I can see a lot of information on these little pistils, the drops of water, and the edge of the flower, so I have pretty much all of the critical information I need to ensure that I make a proper sharpening. So what I'll do is I'll hold down the Alt key and I'll click on the sharpening. You'll see everything turns to gray, and the reason why it turns to gray is because color isn't affected by sharpening, only luminosity. So if we slide it to the left, there's no sharpening applied. All raw images need to have sharpening applied. Okay, they don't have sharpening applied, and the default is 25 in Lightroom. I never go over around 65. 70 would be the max that I would ever put on an image. I don't think I've ever put anything above 75. And not every image is the same. I can't say, well, put 30 on it. Every image can take a different amount of sharpening, so you have to selectively apply it. So we're going to hold down the Alt key, and we're going to slide the slider to the left, because I like to start with nothing, and I increase it until I see that the information that I think should be sharp is sharpened. You'll start to see, you start to get this orange peel effect inside the background, and this is really bad in skies. Anywhere there's noise, sharpening is going to increase that, and you get artifacts. So if I slide this over, you'll see that it really looks orange peely. That's way too much. So I start sliding it over until I see that the information in here and these edges, this texture starts to come out some, and then I'll stop. In this image, it looks like if it starts to get all messed up and you back it off just a hair till it cleans up, that's the point in which your sharpening should be applied to. Okay, so we'll look at our radius information. We'll do the same thing. Holding down the Alt key, we can see where it's applied to in the edges, and I want to bring the radius over until I start to see halos coming in. You see those, the halos around the edges here? Well, I don't want halos to happen. Okay, so I'll bring this radius over until the edges are nice and crisp, and I can see the information clearly where I want it applied, which will be in this area and around the edges of these flowers. Now the detail is unique because it doesn't affect the hard edges. It affects textures and fine detail and fine edges. So if we hold down the Alt key, we'll bring the detail slider to our left, and we'll start to increase it, and you'll see that instead of the edge being predominant, look at this water area and look at the texture in this flower where these little lines are. Watch what this detail does. It'll start to bring that texture and fine detail in, and you can see that we're starting to get a little bit of orange peel at 49, so we'll back that off. I call it orange peel. You can call it what you want, but also this will create halos too, and I don't want that to necessarily be in my image. So now that we've applied the proper amount of sharpening and radius and detail, we'll move into the masking. And this is when I talked about the luminosity mask. This is what I'm talking about. In some of my Photoshop tutorials and an action that I've created, you'll see what luminosity masks are. Well, Lightroom has one automatically built in. If you just hold down the Alt key and go to masking, you'll see that everything turns white. How does that work? Black conceals and white reveals, right? So the white is only going to let the sharpening be applied to those white edges, and where it's black there will be no sharpening applied, so that all those artifacting that was in the background is no longer there anymore on this image because we've masked it out. The same way that we use those luminosity masks in Photoshop, we just did the same thing to our image inside Lightroom. So as you can see, this image looks pretty clean now. Well, that's all I have today on sharpening. And just remember, sharpening is an illusion. If the detail's not there when you capture the image, there's no amount of sharpening that you can apply will make it come back. So thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll see you later.